Okay, it's 9 o'clock, and so welcome everyone to our Tuesday edition of the Douglas County Planning, Douglas County Budget Committee meeting. And let's start by the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. So we would like to hear first from Bill Clemens to start the
All right.
day.
Well, I'm once again here. I've been here for 10 years now. And my budget has stayed pretty consistently the same. We've done no fee increases yet, which is kind of an artificial statement, as we have a valuation table that's a national table that we base our fees on. It goes up every year. But most building departments typically do fee increases every year or two. We haven't. We literally have the lowest fees in the state, which I'm really proud of. This year, I'll be retiring, and I will, in about February of next year, I'll be retiring. So this will probably be the last time I do this with this group.
I'm sure that's gonna take.
Yeah, it'll work you over pretty good on that note.
So,
Exactly.
I'd just like to say that, as a group of commissioners, I've been doing this for 35 years, and this is the best group of commissioners I've ever worked with. And I don't hand stuff like that out easily. It really is. The common sense that's used in this county, and I appreciate working here, I appreciate living here. It's been a real pleasure. So, the commissioners made a decision a while back to basically put all of the inspection services with the building department. So the building department, if you look at our budget, we've got it kind of broke down into 5 different sections, but we oversee, the building department oversees the electrical program, which is the electrical inspection program, the on-site program, which is your septic systems, environmental health, which inspects pools, restaurants, hotels, that kind of thing, and clean water, which is they check public water systems. It's a grant program. They check the public water systems for purities and stuff like that. That was a great idea, because now we've got basically all the inspectors in the county all have the same, culture, or, we're all under the same umbrella and trying to look at things the same, which is we try to find the cans and not the can'ts. If we go out to a property and we're looking at it, if somebody, we're looking at something, we try to find a solution if things aren't quite the way they're supposed to be. So when we have all the inspectors in the county doing that the same way, which it's taken a little work and we're still working on it, it's a really good thing. So you don't have, your environmental health people being very stringent and just the opposite of what the building people are. So that was a really good move by the commissioners, and it put 18 employees and 9 vehicles in one budget. It's about a $3 million budget a year. But when you think about, 18 employees providing, all of those inspection services to a county this size, it's a pretty good deal. And so really, our budget overall hasn't really changed much. We budgeted for 2 new vehicles this year, which we did last year also. The only big thing you would see here is that Is an increase to travel by about $13,000. And the reason for that is that we wanna send our environmental health folks over to the coast and spend a couple days there every month to inspect, because by the time you leave here, drive over there and inspect some, you just can't, you get 3 or 4 inspections in. Or if we send them over there, somebody over there for 2 or 3 days, they can get up at 7 o'clock in the morning and go hit it till 6 and get the job done. Plus, I think the coast would appreciate having our face over there a little more. So that's where that increase is.
Some great new cabins at the Salmon Harbor RV Resort.
Yep, I've heard about
Some of those.
them. So
They're booked a year ahead though.
yeah, so we really, and the same with FTEs, we haven't added FTEs, that's gonna have to change probably in the future. Codes have gotten a little more strict, and we've got, people are having to spend more time on jobs than they used to. Some of the stuff with energy is absolutely ridiculous, but we won't talk about that here. But we have a lot more rules to apply. We only apply the ones that we have to. But with that said, it does take more time to do, and then even the education, the environmental health people, the state people aren't friendly when it comes to like their education. It's like everybody in the department will have to leave the county because the state only puts on, one class for them all to take, and it's over in Bend. So we go, most part of 2 days without any inspectors here because of their planning. So, but anyway, is there any questions on our budget?
Where is the 2 new vehicles? I didn't see that, it wasn't in green like the sheriff is.
Yeah, so it's in 6500000. It's in
Has it been
fleet.
paid, it's been paid a little bit at a time? Okay.
Oh, yeah, so
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah, so what we do, and I didn't wanna really get into a bunch of details, but the building department, because it's a little more fruitful, we pay it forward. So every vehicle we have, we pay $600 a month on that vehicle. The fleet takes that $600 and puts it in the bank. And so then when that vehicle gets to, $40,000 or $20,000 or whatever, whenever we feel we need to get a vehicle, we'll either budget $20,000 to put with $20,000 that we paid forward and buy a new vehicle, or we'll, outright buy a new vehicle if we've got the capital in there to do it. So, and then we hand those vehicles down, and what we're hoping to do is get them where we're handing lower mile vehicles down to the other departments I was talking about, the environmental health department, which doesn't have as much revenue as the building department does. We'll hire a lower mileage vehicle down to them to use. And they only pay forward $300 a month. So that they're always kept in decent vehicles without breaking the bank or having to up the fees. So.
Yeah, one of the things for all of you and say it for Bill, we in the commissioner's office, one of the things that happens pretty regular is we get phone call complaints from customers, from constituents, and probably one of the larger amounts is something going on with one of your departments. You've got a lot of stuff, and a lot of times this is negative to some of those people, so we'll end up fielding a phone call pretty regularly, and it's griping about this or that and something going on. But the one thing I can tell you that I've learned over the years here, that is, there is always another side to the story. And I don't really worry about it too much when I'm listening to this person, cause I know we're gonna work it out, and I know you're right, cause you always are. And, the department's been wonderful that way, because, I just don't have to worry about it, and, really appreciate your service, and
Thank you.
I'm gonna miss you a lot.
Well, one other thing I wanna add is that, when I took over the environmental health department and on-site and water, they were 3 different departments. I've educated them, we spent quite a bit on education last year, and so that they can all do the same job. So now, instead of having, I had literally 1 sanitarian, right? So by the time we're done with everything, which will be in the next year, probably before I go, we'll have it where if that sanitarian goes on vacation, I got somebody else that can do the work. And we didn't have that before, and that's something that that's something that we've worked for, and we've got literally 4 licensed environmental health specialists down there now. Like I said, by the time I leave in next February, March, should be able to fill in for each other in any aspect, so.
So Bill, thank you. You talked a little bit about culture and combining all the inspections into one department. Both of those are great reflections of you. So the culture is a culture you brought to the county and continue to make sure is what's happening in all these inspections and within your department. But really a reflection of the confidence of your abilities why we've done that. These departments, these functions were in other departments, and as things have moved around here, each time we look up and say, well, geez, who could do a better job with this? We always look to you. So that really is a reflection of your abilities. So thank you for the work you've done here. And again, I'm not sure you're ready to retire yet, so.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, sort of what Commissioner Freeman said, we have added to your workload since you've been here, because you're capable, and it reminds me of a funny saying that my taught me when I was younger, and everyone here's probably heard me say it before, but don't ever do anything well that you don't wanna do again.
Yeah.
You do it pretty well, and we're grateful for you, but when Tim and I have been here for 10 years, and the first phone calls we start to field is, the dreaded building department. You've got these people in the community that just don't understand it, they don't understand the need for it, they wanna cut corners, they wanna take shortcuts, they wanna try to save money. And we get somebody in here that every single time we've been able to match the complainer with you and your department and come to a resolution that everybody's happy with. And that's because you have a common sense approach to what you're trying to do. And no matter how messed up somebody has made some project because they didn't wanna follow the rules, you have found a way to get them back on track. And that's been great, so we appreciate
Thank
it.
you. I'm doing my best to train my staff the same way for when I go, so. And then I have total confidence, I have the best staff. I mean, I'm not just saying that, I've let go of a lot of people. Tom kinda knows that, but if they can't cut it, they're gone, but I have a great staff, and so.
I hope that there are many, many miles of gravel roads on your motorcycle in your retirement.
Thank you.
For you to look forward to.
Right on.
I'd entertain a motion.
I will move to tentatively approve the building department and all other in this budget.
Second that.
It's been moved and seconded to tentatively approve the building department's budget. Any further comments, discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you for all
Thank
your
you,
years of work and happy retirement.
you bet, thank you.
So who are you gonna send in here to take your place next year?
That's up to them.
Oh.
Good answer, right?
Yeah, right.
That's a good answer.
He's helping with that.
Bill, let's go.
Okay, so Daniel Loomis.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, board members, commissioners. My name is Dan Loomis, I'm the Douglas County Clerk, and before you I have the county clerk budget. The personnel chart, staffing chart shows a total of 6 personnel. That is down from 7 from last year, which is down from 8 previous year. We continue to try and meet our budget. We have consistently met our budget, and this year is an anomaly where we are not. Our revenues is generated by recordings, and the housing market controls that. I'd like to bring your attention to this chart here. That is a history of 25 years of recordings, and it shows the large thick blue line in the middle is the average of about a little over 23,000 recordings a year. And you can see sometimes we've fallen below that, and these last few years we've fallen below that because of the housing market. But these years are an anomaly. We are going back to that average soon, or higher. Right now, this year, at this point in this year, we're up 2.5% over the previous period in the last year. And so the trend is changing and we are moving upward. Our personnel cost over the last 4 years have gone up 26.4%. At the same time, I've reduced my staff by 2 down to 6 people, trying to meet as best as I can those budget requirements. What are your questions?
One of the things on the housing market that affects it considerably is interest rates.
Yes.
So the interest rates have been higher than they had been for a while. And there's some optimism around possibility of interest rates going back down, which could very well occur during this budget period that we're looking at right here. And that increased in activity may change dramatically your need to use general fund, right?
Yes. I do have about 130,000 in grants currently that I'll be using on a capital project, which will take a little bit more than that. But it's to increase election security based on recommendations from the Department of Homeland Security.
So I'd move to tentatively approve the clerk's budget.
I'll second.
Been moved and seconded to tentatively approve the county clerk's budget. Any further questions, comments?
Few comments. Dan, I just can't ever say enough how grateful we are to have you here.
I'm grateful as well.
You
Thank you.
do a fantastic job dealing with every single issue from voter fraud to mail-in ballots to the countless hours that you spend researching to provide responses to some of these people's questions is mind-boggling to me. And the professionalism that you run your office and the way that you carry yourself just in the community, you were an excellent choice, and we're glad to have you.
Thank you so much.
I would agree.
Thank you.
Thank you for your service too. Ready for the vote? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thanks again.
I'm grateful. Thank you.
See, Rick, come on up and. that
Good
is-
morning, ladies and gentlemen of the commission and commissioners. Before I begin, I want to introduce some folks that are absolutely critical to my operation. Allison Eichman is my chief deputy DA. Lisa Thompson is my office manager, and Teresa Wells is, I guess, our assistant office manager. And so these folks are a sort of critical management team for the DA's office, and I incredibly appreciate it. Also, you know, when talking about staff, I have just an amazing staff. They, couldn't ask them to work harder. And ironically, I don't have to ask them that, they just do it. And, I'm proud to report that, that we are still a full-service DA's office. We prosecute every type of crime that comes in. I know from victim standpoint that, sometimes it's frustrating when, especially when a defendant gets out of custody, the ability to get a trial date, seems like forever. And you know, I hear that from victims all the time, and I sympathize with victims all the time because it does feel like it takes forever. But that is unfortunately a function of the courts and a function of the issues with defense attorneys and largely out of our control. I also have to say that I am very aware of the position that the county is in, and you know, where things, you know, may well be going, and which makes the support that I receive from this body and from the commissioners all that much more incredible. I know that you all prioritize law enforcement, and we don't want to let you down. And so, with that, this budget is a status quo budget. There was a significant thing I wanted to mention that you may have talked about a little bit with Lieutenant MacArthur yesterday. The only person from my management team who's not here is Deputy DA named Morgan Early, and she's essentially our number 3, and she's paid accordingly, and she is, when we went through a series of different lawyers in the DINT team, and for various different reasons that wasn't working great, and so had the option to choose a lawyer to go to DINT, and chose Morgan, because Morgan is top flight, and you know, so Lieutenant MacArthur may have been discussing that budgetary component in his, because the DDA who's assigned to DINT pays for. And the reason that I put Ms. Early in that position was because I know how critically important DINT is to not only to the county and to the sheriff's office, but primarily I know that this body and the commissioners in particular are very aware of what the work that DINT is doing, the critical work that DINT is doing, and so I wanted to mention that, you know, because you know that wasn't Lieutenant MacArthur, that wasn't, you know, Rick does it, he does an amazing job, you know. But so I just wanted to mention that from the budget standpoint. I'm sorry? Go ahead.
So if you're done, I got a couple of things.
Sure.
I'm sorry, if you're still going, go ahead. Now, I wanted to mention, I'm not sure everybody knows, you had talked about in your comments how hard your staff works, but part of that's a reflection of how hard you work. So your lack of ability to hire lawyers and the challenge around lawyers, not just in your office, but statewide, maybe even nationally, has caused you to have to pick up the slack. You've worked lots of weekends, lots of evenings, and are actually back in the courtroom trying cases. So I don't know if everybody's aware of that, but you know, as an elected official, Rick is supposed to be more in a management or administrative role, and you certainly continue to do that. But because of the challenges around hiring staff, you've kind of dusted off the old prosecution role and get back into doing that. And I know you're really good at it, but it takes a lot of time, and we appreciate it.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Rick, how many attorneys, prosecuting attorneys would you say were short? You're,
Well, we're currently, we had a separation, a voluntary separation, a week or so ago. And so that gets us down to 7. But we have a couple of folks in the pipeline that we're interviewing. And so, we're budgeted for 11, and so I'm hoping that soon we'll have 8. And so, it's a new paradigm because the Oregon State Bar and the Supreme Court changed the rules so that there's these programs so that one doesn't actually have to write the bar, but then they have to be sort of intensely supervised, and that turns into a ton of work. That's Ms. Eichmann does that in my office, and that program's been a little hit and miss. However, we've gotten some terrific lawyers, and they are developing and coming along, and there's got some high hopes for some of these folks, and for longevity's sake. Every one of them's moved here and bought houses here, and but it's just
You've been down more than that.
Oh, we have been.
Yeah.
Oh, we have been, and when Jack was the DA, whenever there was an opening, we'd have 10 or more applicants for qualified applicants to fill, and it seems to be ticking up a little bit. We're getting more interest, we're getting more folks to talk, but it's just been a weird time. So, but we're making it work, and that's critical.
You still prosecute all crimes,
Yes.
which not all the counties are doing.
Recently gotten to know some of your staff better, and in doing that, it's amazing to me how dedicated they are to the work that your office does. They live it.
Yes.
And your recent victory in the De Santiago trial was a huge relief to your entire team.
Yes.
Your whole team works on that. It's amazing to kind of get to see how that goes.
Yes.
And it's hats off to you and your whole crew.
I actually want to say a kudo to the state hospital on that case, because we ended up, we spent $20,000 on an expert witness that was consulting with us and assisting us. But the primary witness and the one who did the lion's share of the work and the lion's share of the consulting, I was convinced that we were gonna have to pay him too. And I'll be darned, the administrator at the Oregon State Hospital, Dr. Andy Bustos, stepped up and got him paid. And that directly relieved our general fund of bigger bill than $20K. And so I want to acknowledge that too. There's usually we don't have too much nice to say about folks up north, but
Every now and then.
every now and again, right, have to acknowledge it. So I can't begin to express how much your support means to me. It is a huge factor in making our office successful.
go ahead.
I think misinformation to a lot of the general public is that you let criminals go free. They don't realize the judges are who are letting people go free. You're not the one releasing them. A lot of people think that you're not prosecuting because people get catch and release, and they just keep getting turned back out. And so people think that you're responsible for that. They don't understand the judges are responsible for that. And when it comes time to go to the polls and vote again, we need to have a better selection of judges that want to prosecute people as much as you want to
Well,
prosecute
and
people.
the genesis of that catch and release stuff is the Oregon House and Senate and the governor and the Chief Justice is a big part of that role too. And so, you know, but yeah, I read in the paper the other day about it seemed to me like incredibly serious crime could have ended much more tragically than it did. And it's a crime that if the person were convicted, you'd go to prison for a long time. And yet bail was set at a ridiculously low number. I read the bail in the paper and I was like, you gotta be kidding me. My people are up there every single day asking for high bail. We just rarely get it, so,
Rick, does your budget reflect 11 positions?
yes,
Okay.
yes.
Together.
I will move to tentatively approve the district attorney's budget.
It's been moved and seconded a couple times that the district attorney's budget be approved. Any further comments, discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thanks, Rick, for all you do.
Thank
Thanks
you.
to the staff for all you do too.
September 23rd.
Oh, thank you,
That's the trial.
thank you.
Okay, Kathleen. Oh, Kathleen.
Oh, we got Judge Miller today.
Oh, Judge Miller.
Judge Mayfield.
Judge Mayfield's here next.
Okay.
She's here in the room.
Kathleen, so then I was confused.
Oh,
Good morning, thank you,
Mayfield's
Chairman,
next.
budget members and commissioners, good morning.
excuse me. What did I goof on that one?
It's okay.
Okay, sorry.
I've never been called Kathleen before, so it's a first.
These are the good judges. These are our judges.
I was
Hang
gonna
on.
say, she was, your comments on judges, I don't deal with the catch and release so much, cause I'm not dealing with felonies, so I do put people in custody, but not at the frequency with which you're concerned, so. Good morning. So this is a status quo budget for the most part. There are a couple of changes that I'd like to just address. I did increase a couple of expected revenues. We already had met our this year budget by March, so I'm assuming we're gonna make a little more next month, so I increased that a little. I also have already met the fines and fees by April, so I increased that a little. Both of those are to offset the 10,000 increase you'll see on the legal services, so I'm gonna give you a little backstory on that. I don't deal with the public defender's office. I have private pay attorneys that do public defender work for our court. So they get $200 a case, and that is not enough. And so Commissioner Crest and I talked about it, and I was able to find in statute where we can pass along part of the cost, depending on someone's financial situation, to the defendant if they lose a case and get found guilty, or if they take a deal, that they're responsible for part of that cost of their attorney. And so I was able to increase to $300 a case, which is still not enough, but at least something in an effort to retain the long-term public defender I have, keep the new one happy, and add a third one to the mix, because what has been happening recently is I have frequent offenders that have conflicts with different cases, and so I would end up with a defendant that couldn't be this attorney's defendant, couldn't be this attorney's defendant, and then I didn't have a public defender for someone. So I'm having to add additional people so that when those conflicts arise, there's someone to take the case. So again, that's the only real increase you'll see in my budget. That's a cost really, is that legal fees went up so that I could offset the cost of the public defenders. But again, I expect to recoup that in the fees that we're gonna pass on to the defendants. Again, it's based on financial ability to pay, and so there's some things in there, so we won't get every dollar back, but we should get a substantial amount of that back. Yeah, I love my staff. I think we do great things down there. We're right around 6,000 cases a year, about 10% of those being misdemeanor cases. I would say probably like 125 of them are DUIs, and that's about as serious as they get, all the way down to traffic, tickets that are parking tickets, so a wide variety of different things. We recently did 18 eviction cases out of one building. That was an exciting experience. We do a lot down there, a lot of different things in a lot of different ways, and access to justice is had in South Douglas County. So I welcome any questions you have about my budget or.
How's your dog?
My dog is amazing.
Why did you not bring?
And because she's not appropriate for this space. She's good, but she's not that good. But she's legal and licensed with her Douglas County tag now, so that's very exciting.
We talked about that yesterday,
My dog specifically?
specifically.
Tentatively approve the South Douglas Justice Court.
I'll second that.
Okay, been moved and seconded to approve the South Douglas Justice Court District. Any further discussion, comments? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Michelle, thank you.
Thank you for your time, ladies and gentlemen.
Tom, you wanna
Have
do
a great day.
comments?
Yeah, I mean,
I'll stop by and see you and your dog tomorrow.
Justice will be happy to see you.
Okay, go ahead.
okay, so Reedsport Justice Court, it's kind of a similar situation, only a little different. We, everything is a status quo budget as well. Has a little more difficulty getting stuff written into that court. So the, as you can see, the revenues there has gone down. It actually went down in 23-24. Not sure where we're tracking on 24-25, but that's the number we use going forward for 25 and 26. So it works with a little bit of a general resource contribution required there. And it's strictly a kind of a matter of how many different fees are being written into that court. And it has a little narrower window and opportunity than Judge Mayfield does. But nonetheless, that's this budget.
I will move to tentatively approve the Reedsport Justice Court budget.
Second.
And it's been moved and seconded to approve the Reedsport Justice Court. Comments, questions? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion and budget is approved. Eric's here. Eric?
Slowly but surely. Good morning, Commissioners and members of the Budget Committee. Eric Frumble, Juvenile Department. I'd like to start by introducing our new Assistant Director to the Juvenile Department, Whitney Lang. She comes to us from Curry County as the Director and has some family roots here, so I think she'll be around a long time. Our instructions were basically status quo, which we did. And if you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them.
Just one question, Eric. Have you heard back from the folks we had the meeting with the other day?
Only the email that we were CC'd on, where they gave us the list of requirements, which we've gone through, and looks like if the board decides to move forward, I think the two areas that will be where we can really use some help is the medical and the Spanish-speaking interpreters. But other than that, I think we have most everything in place through the regulations that we're required to upkeep through Oregon, so.
Okay. The only reason I ask is we've just had an inquiry for a bed contract from a federal agency that may help with a budget impact, but otherwise we've got it whittled down about as low as we can, and we'll see how that goes.
I think that contract will do very good to get us very close to
not needing general refunds resources, so.
Didn't we used to have a bed contract?
We have contracts with multiple agencies. We do some work for the state of Oregon. We also contract for beds with some other counties. This is just another option.
So we contract basically with Curry County and Coos County. Josephine is currently their juvenile, detention is still open, but things are moving around down there. Anyway, plus as Commissioner Boyce, suggested or said, we still have the foster youth contract with, the state child welfare. And we're just getting ready to sign a new 5-year contract, with a 16-bed guarantee. So we'll be set for quite a while.
And that will fill this gap.
It'll help.
That is if you look at, charges, fees and revenues, that 4,472,000, a lot of that is that DHS money.
We're looking at another contract, Katie, beyond that one that's got potential to do the same thing. And what we're getting at when we negotiate these contracts for these folks is we've gotta have staffing available to manage these kids, whether they're in our facility or not. They can't just show up and then us call in staff. So we've worked hard to get contracts that have guaranteed numbers, and we're getting paid whether they've got kids in the bed or not. And so this is another entity that has a similar interest. And Eric and his team do such a great job providing this service that we often get called to help. And so we're right now in the middle of looking through what they would expect from us to see whether or not we can provide it. We'll put together a proposal to get back to them. It'll make a very positive budget impact if we can put it together.
Eric, I see, your biggest change here in the status quo is your personal services, 12% increase. I assume that's direct result of some contract negotiation?
Yes.
And that, we wouldn't see a 12% again next year.
Part of that is that the current fiscal year that we're in, we last year we budgeted quite a high vacancy credit. We had been trending for years with a large vacancy, and that has since changed the trend. So we wanted to be more realistic with our vacancy credit, and that's part of what you're seeing.
So you've actually filled the FTEs that were budgeted for.
Plus there was negotiations where
Gap too, yeah.
the past years, the members of the bargaining unit did not get the increase that General County got. So they kind of right-sized that this year, and so their COLA is quite a bit higher than the General County, so. And most of our employees are in the union, so that's a big increase, but it should not increase nearly that much as we move forward. This is kind of a one-time fix.
Eric, you've been doing this a long time. What do you see as some trends in juvenile difficulties, I guess?
I think the trend over time, since I started almost 28 years ago, was a boom of juvenile crime. And I think as the years have gone by and we've gotten to this point, that it has fallen significantly. And recidivism has also fallen. So those kids, 20% of the kids that commit 80% of the crime over and over again. It's not the same as it was, and that's where we spent a lot of money in those kids that come through again and again. And my belief is, I'd like to sit here and say, well, we do such a great job. We're really fighting the crime. But I think it's technology. I think it's, you know, in our day, we would have to hook up with friends to go do something. And right now, they're basically on their headphones in front of their computer screens and playing with a kid down the street. And negative association is one of the greatest factor of juvenile crime, is association with other delinquents, basically, so. And
Well, we can't hang out.
And I will say, the type of offender that we get now is more mental health related. It's family stuff. We certainly do get some of the old time, as I call them, the old time kids, but a lot of it is family
Dysfunction.
yeah, exactly, so anyway, we are serving, as I said, Curry, Coos, Douglas County, and only average about a daily population of 5 youth. So when that building was built in '01, they were building it for the future, seeing the trend that was happening then. And so they made a 24-bed facility. And we're only operating as an 8-bed facility by staffing. And it's easy to do. We're only averaging about 5 kids per day.
Detention center portion of his
Yeah.
budget.
Yes.
Well, thanks for all you do.
Yeah, thank you. And this will be my last one of these.
Okay.
I retire at the end of this year.
I would tentatively move to, or I would move to tentatively approve the juvenile budget.
I'll second.
Then moved and seconded to tentatively approve the juvenile services budget. Any further questions, discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you very much. Moving on to the grant administration.
Okay, this is a one-person budget basically, and she's only, in this budget, only pays for 0.1 FTE for her position. And if you look at the juvenile services overpage program partnership coordinator, she's 0.9 FTE in the juvenile budget.
Other way around.
Huh?
This is
0.9 in grant administration,
0.1 in-
0.1 in juvenile.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry, the other way around. Because most of that grant funding does pay for her position. She's also the local public safety coordinating council coordinator. Works very closely with Commissioner Boyce and a lot of different agencies where that grant funding comes from. And she is also the county's HIPAA compliance officer, making headway on that, so, but we're always here and we just don't know what that grant amount is gonna be as it comes in. So we kind of do our best looking at trends and things like that, but we're hoping that those grants will come with that, 10% of admin fee.
So her job is to write grants for the juvenile department?
It's not,
Or for the whole county?
she does write grants and tracks the grants, and Ellen back here also, she is the financial side of tracking the grant with management and finance. But she does a lot more. She coordinates the LIPSIC meetings, and but she does write grants, but those are grants that are specifically targeted for kind of criminal justice and things like that.
Katie, there's a half a dozen different ones that we use, from the impacts grant to the mobile crisis grant to grants for drug court operation or specialty courts. It's all it's all run through what's called the Local Public Coordinating Council, which is a statutorily required group of people to have working on these issues in order to get this funding. And there was a time when we didn't have anybody to do the work. That council is made up of myself and the DA and the sheriff and the public defender and everybody that's already got full-time jobs. And working with AOC, at one point, we had a grant that allowed us to hire some LIPSIC coordinators throughout the state, and we shared a person with Josephine County. And when Josephine County backed out of that program, we took that gal on and hired her to work for us full-time. And it was when we had a staff person here to do that work that the work really got done. And that gal left, and we hired a new gal knowing that we also have this HIPAA compliance obligation. Her name's Corey Tate. We hired her from the city of Roseburg. She's absolutely fantastic. She keeps all of our ducks in a row. And the idea is that, and we also did work to make this happen, is that every one of these grants that she manages now and Ellen manages with her, they come with a percentage of admin fee that we can deduct from the grant. And so when those grant dollars come in, we're supposed to make sure that we take the admin portion of that and cover her cost. And I have a question as to, we went from 35,000 one year to 17,000 one year, and then it looks like last year we're up over 100 the last 2 years, and I'm wondering why that is. But my guess is that there's more money available through those grants than we're recognizing in order to pay this bill.
I'd entertain a motion to approve the grant administration budget.
I'll move to tentatively approve the grant administration budget.
Second. Been moved and seconded to tentatively approve the grant administration budget. Any further questions, comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thanks, Eric.
Okay, thank you.
Good morning, Chair.
Morning.
Budget Committee members and Commissioners. I'm Nancy Laney, Douglas County Radio and IT Department Leader. Before you, we have the, looks like it's a suggestion. Before you, we have a status quo budget for the IT department. We had one of our staff members retire last year. So we have put that position, eliminated that position, and so we're down one staff member. We've eliminated that, really looking to support the county and the budget cuts and the tightening the belt. So we're supporting that effort. We also have continued in our efforts to significantly look at improving the cybersecurity efforts in the county and upgrading our systems and implementing security measures and processes across the organization. And we've been successful in doing that while still reducing staff members and making forward progress there. We've made a lot of significant improvements and have some additional projects planned for the upcoming year.
Nancy, wouldn't it be fair to say that without the improvements in technology that you guys have implemented to help keep us safe cybersecurity wise, that we could potentially be looking at a whole bunch more in cost in staffing in order to fix the mistakes that happened rather than to prevent them?
Oh, absolutely. It goes without saying that if you suffer a breach and you have a ransomware attack, that it would cost the county millions. I mean, way beyond what our annual budget is what it would cost the county to recover from a ransomware attack. And yes, you're absolutely right.
We've had multiple counties in Oregon and a bunch of organizations around Douglas County and the state that have had ransomware, and it is wildly expensive to come back from that.
It absolutely is. It turns out just like being an open checkbook kind of expense. And the challenge we found is that we are part of Region 10, the Federal Cybersecurity Initiative, CISA, has divided the country up into 10 regions, and we're part of Region 10. And in January this year, we received notice that Region 10 was at a heightened alert for cyber attacks. And so we've been experiencing a significant amount of probes on a daily basis of threat actors trying to enter our network, and we continually try to improve those efforts to block all of those attacks.
I for one am grateful, yes, that we aren't in the news, which we could be, it wouldn't be big news. Thank you for your efforts, and while, you know, for the last 5 or so years, we've also been, you know, quietly, slowly, getting rid of all our legacy systems here that were quite old and, you know, hard to deal with, and it's been painful, but we're kind of over that hump now, and it feels pretty good. You know, things are running, we're more in the modern world. Updates will be easier in the future, all those kind of things, and I appreciate all the effort you made. I know it's been, you know, you like squeezing blood out of a turnip to get money out of us to do things sometimes, but you got there, wrote grants, did things, and we're in a pretty good spot now.
Yeah, and I do wanna recognize the incredible amount of support I've gotten from the commissioners. Some of the changes we've had to make have not been without a little bit of pain on the user's part, you know, longer passwords. You know, all of these things go a long ways towards securing our environment. And I've had 100% resounding support from the commissioners and from the organization, and that has made a huge difference in our ability to move these initiatives forward and rapidly.
What's the reduction in your charges for services? You have $24,000 reduced.
On which line?
Your revenue line.
Oh, so the reduction in revenue, so in IT, we have very little opportunity for revenue, and we used to charge the real estate companies a IT support charge because we gave them back-end access to the LAN system, and so that we had to have VPN connections and usernames, and there was a whole bunch of support around that. When the assessor and Treasury went on to their new Orion system, that access was moved to an online platform, and we no longer had to give them this back-end access, so we eliminated that whole support cost, and that was what it came from. So it was pretty much just a wash.
It's better overall.
Overall, it's huge. It was a huge security risk, right? So
I just saw it and was curious what it was, so thank you.
I have an idea. We have the opportunity in our emails to report things that look suspicious. And I don't know where those reports actually go.
They go to us.
Yeah, but my idea is that we attach an incentive to that so that every time someone accurately reports a viable threat, that they get entered into a drawing for some sort of a kudo.
Oh, all right.
Because it's a small thing, but for us to know that when we reported it, that it was something that was needed to
real.
be reported is an incentive, at least for me. And then to have, you know, something attached to that, it's such a small thing that could literally save millions of dollars.
And honestly and truly, clicking on something, especially links in an email, and not being aware that that's a phishing email is one of our highest risks. And so we have ongoing training but really getting users, and it's so easy, you're in a hurry, you're expecting an email, you're expecting an attachment, it's easy to click on something. But having that awareness and looking for those red flags is one of the number one things we can do to secure our environment, because that is one of our number one threats.
We were in here yesterday morning and someone had made a comment about sending somebody a YouTube video and I said, whoa, don't say that in front of IT.
Yeah.
Appreciate you and what you've done. I feel like under your leadership, we as an organization have come a long ways to making sure that we're not one of those news stories. And aside from that, you know, you and your team have been willing to help some of those folks who weren't as fortunate. So there's been neighboring counties that have had significant problems, and you and your team have deployed to help on the recovery, which we're grateful for, to have the resources still to be able to do that, to help other folks. But you know, my understanding is that some of the information that gets hijacked during those types of events ends up just being non-recoverable at all, ever.
That's true.
And so there's, you know, counties have historical records of things that they just lose. No getting it back.
Yeah.
So
It's
we don't wanna be there.
we don't wanna be there. It's interesting, Curry County suffered a really severe ransomware attack a year ago, I believe. And we sent somebody down to help further recovery. And it's interesting, this week they're doing a cybersecurity conference as part of their follow-up to that, and they're hosting that. And so they've had a really long haul, and you're absolutely right, they're many of their records they lost, and there's no recovery for that.
Wow.
Move to tentatively approve the IT budget.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to tentatively approve the IT budget. Any further questions, comments? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Now on to the radio system.
All right, thank you very much.
Let's tab number 30.
Exciting news coming in the radio system.
So the before you, we have another status quo budget. And in the radio budget, what you'll find looking at this is that we've had some significant grant activity that's been flowing through this radio budget. And so that's where you really see the changes in the numbers there. Underneath the grant and the capital is a status quo budget with essentially no changes. There's a little bit of extra funding in there to support the grant activity, which we anticipate will be funded by the grant. So, but essentially it's a status quo budget.
So that's that $7 million coming in, and that's as an intergovernmental revenue, that's grant.
7 million this current year and then 8 million
Next year. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, excuse me.
radio tower replacement.
Yeah, that's a $17.5 million grant.
Okay. Whereabouts is that being, that's just a whole system or a specific tower?
Oh, so- Right, so we have 19 radio towers across Douglas County, and the grant is to upgrade the UHF and VHF radio and the whole communication system across those 19 towers, at all 19. We're not replacing the towers themselves, but we are replacing the microwave dishes on the towers, the radio transmitter, and the communication system that connects it all together.
Have we had any word on our $2.3 million federal that was this year supposed to be
You're
grant?
talking about the CDS congressional directed. I have not heard anything on that.
I thought that's likely not going to happen now.
I suspect probably not, but I haven't heard one way or the other.
It didn't really make a difference to our other grant and to the system. It was
It was gonna be
fixing a hole.
yeah, it was just it was improving the coverage area in North County.
So this legacy system had got to the point where it was almost impossible to repair and keep running.
Yes.
So Tom sort of took this on with Nancy and her team and looked for ways to sort of patch it together for a while and eventually getting this grant allows them to upgrade it to a place where we're gonna be in good shape again when we get through all this.
Absolutely. We are really incredibly grateful for this grant. We're really looking forward. It's gonna position us to be in current technology guaranteed for the next 10 years. That's part of what we're putting into the bid process that we're working on right now. So we're really looking at huge improvement in the stability of the system. Currently, we find parts on eBay because they're no longer manufactured. And so it's definitely a challenge.
I would move to tentatively approve the radio budget.
I'll second that.
It'd be moved and seconded to tentatively approve the radio system budget. Any further questions, comments? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you for all you're doing. Thank you.
Thank you guys.
Good
Morning.
morning. I'm James Davis with the Museum Department. We were asked to maintain status quo and I've basically been able to do so.
Tab number 16. Slide.
So we gained an FTE and increased $22,000 in general fund expenses, so what was the FTE about?
We brought in a full-time kitchen lead person over there, which has been beneficial. We're going to end up being quite a bit higher this year.
The revenue side.
Revenues. I would guesstimate we'll be $60,000 to $70,000 up over last year, so I think it's been beneficial.
So he's talking about that the museum, the Lighthouse Museum at the Coast, the gift shop restaurant is really good, by the way, if you ever get a chance to go over there. But the staff there does a fantastic job.
Best clam chowder on the coast. That's coming from somebody who's eaten gallons and gallons and gallons of clam chowder.
So the museums aren't self-sufficient. They're getting money from our budget.
Yes,
They don't support themselves.
that would be nice if we could get to that point. We've been trying to plug along doing some deferred maintenance that's been left for years, but hopefully we can just keep.
That is the goal, correct, for them to be self-sufficient?
Yeah, and you can see it's been, the coastal one has been flirting with it, and the goal is always is that it would generate enough revenue to help do, for the year. But as we're going along, expenses keep going up and it's just not, we're not gaining revenue there as fast as as expenses are going up. We have other things in the works, but try to change that, but yeah, that is definitely the goal.
How's your foot traffic, or your attendance at the local Roseburg Museum?
It's about the same as always.
Okay.
It's really been about the same for 20 years.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem to matter what we do. Of course, I tend to focus more time on the coast, which I would like to focus more time here, but you gotta take care of what's bringing in the money at the time. So I think eventually we'll get around.
Well, yeah, it's kinda like the best kept secret around, it's what everybody
It is.
goes there, it's a wonderful experience and they didn't even think to go there.
We hear it on a daily basis.
We were
People come
talking
in.
about that just yesterday. I don't think anybody that goes to the Douglas County Museum, sorry they went, but not enough people go.
And you hear people say, oh, we've lived here 30 years and we've never been in, and then they come in and they're like, why haven't we brought our grandkids and done this? But
So
it's just tough,
years ago, they used to take the grade schools on field trips
and
there.
we still do.
You still do?
Oh, we have, field trips almost every day right now. The 3rd and 4th graders come.
Because you would think that would go home and tell their parents.
We used to have a full-time educator, which we don't have anymore, which we would send out to the schools. But Donna's trying to do some of that, but she's just part-time, so
Well,
It's just
and-
tough.
In reality, you look at, even at now, at 4.5 FTEs running 2 operations, you know, that's not very many people. We very, very much relying on our volunteers, but especially on the coast.
Getting another piece of property that you guys did has helped us
And we
tremendously.
over-rely on James, who worked
Yes, we do.
a ton of hours, and we recognize that.
I've had to
appreciate
slow, I've been able to slow it down a little bit, which has been.
I know in the past, that we used to have AmeriCorps people, have we've had any of those?
We haven't done that in a while, you know, we have,
Probably.
it costs about $10,000.
Program that
Just
per
as
term
well,
to
since
do that.
that program looks like it's gone.
The foundation had got really low on money for a while, they're starting to build back up now, and we have received a few grants to help with the deck project we're doing around the depot and some of the smaller stuff, but it's, you know,
Katie, every time I go to the coast and go to the museum, there's something new that you've done there.
we try.
It's- Whether it's landscaping or a new deck or whatever. Every time I go, it just keeps getting better and better and better.
I appreciate that.
He's pretty disappointed though, his deck that he built
Got hit and we've
car
still
missed
not
the
got
corner.
it fixed yet.
Wiped down.
The what?
Car missed the corner and went under the deck.
Oh, no.
$15,000
Hit and
worth
run.
of damage,
Yeah.
more than it cost
And
us to
run, no
build the whole
insurance.
thing. So we're about to get started on that in the next couple of weeks, so get it back together.
So when you talk about the train depot at the Douglas County Museum, are there grant opportunities that would go to foundations that some of the rail companies?
There are,
Yeah,
and that
okay.
we did just get a $25,000 grant to help with the decking and ADA to
From,
get up. That one came from the Oregon Community Foundation, well, you know, it's,
how about a foundation like, you know, who knows what, Southern Pacific, if there's, whatever conglomerates, there's gotta be something
There
else out
are,
there too.
and,
Okay.
you know, it's just, a lot of it is having enough people to implement
Yeah.
all of this stuff. You know, there's always funds for educational purposes, but if you don't have right pieces in place, you don't always.
Okay.
So,
A lot of people don't fully understand the challenges and the time commitment to applying for grants. And you can spend a whole bunch of time and get nothing sometimes. When we do that on other boards you and I are on, so you kind of have to focus your efforts where you're gonna get the most return. And oftentimes, you know, people think, well, we'll just, you know, get a grant. And they say it fast, so it sounds easy, but it's not easy. If it was easy, you know, everybody would do it. So what you do get, we appreciate, but the concept of trying to run, you know, government services or government functions on grants, sometimes is pretty challenging.
I think, I don't know if you guys have heard much about the proposed sports complex, but if that ever became a reality at the fairgrounds side, I think that would mean a whole new future for the museum.
Definitely be a game changer for the museum.
absolutely.
You'd have, you know, families
If we could
with
have an
children,
eatery there,
captive audience there between, you know, while they wait in between their games and things. And
talked about electric chargers out there too, because if people, you know, pulled in and had to spend an hour charging their car, they could come into the museum. But it's, you know, it's just having enough.
Yeah.
To be able to make it all happen.
If that was a convention center, you had a hotel there, you would have people going over there too,
Yeah,
while they were staying at the hotel.
Okay,
I move to tentatively approve the museum budget and ask for a 5-minute recess.
okay,
Got two left.
Second that, I didn't hear one.
so it's been moved and seconded to approve the, museum, budget. Any further questions, comments? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. 5 minutes? Okay.
We appreciate it. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, let's resume our budget committee budget work, and so it's time for the planning department, Josh Shackley. Did I say that right? Shackley or Shakely?
Shackley.
Shackley.
All right, good morning, Chair Nelson and Budget Committee members. For the record, my name is Joshua Shackley. I'm the Planning Director for Douglas County. Appreciate the opportunity to come before you and present our budget for this upcoming fiscal year. I was gonna spend just a minute or two describing what we do in the planning department, but I would hope you're all familiar. If you have any questions, I can answer any questions you have about the services we provide. We do a lot of work flows through our office, and we're pretty proud of the work that we do, and we have a great staff that does that work for the county and its citizens. So our direction from the board was to present a status quo budget, and we've done that to the most to the greatest extent. We've maintained a 13.5 FTE. That's consistent with what we've had for the last couple of years. And we also have a single FTE that's funded by a different department. That's a code enforcement position funded by the building department. The proposed department budget requires a general fund contribution of $1,296,888, which is a decrease of 15% from the current fiscal year. So I did want to talk briefly about where that decrease comes from, in case you have any questions. So a big chunk of that has to do with the floodway study that we paid for out of last year's budget. That was something required by FEMA to remain in compliance with their requirements, their regulations, and that study will wrap up in the next couple months, so that is not carried over into this year's budget. In addition to those savings, we've also updated our fee schedule, something that hadn't been done for almost 10 years. So we're gonna see some revenue generated from that. And I know here at Douglas County, we take pride in keeping our costs for development as low as possible, but we were getting to the point where we had to play catch up. So that's essentially what we did with our new fee schedule. I did want to briefly mention kind of what the overall development activity looks like in the county, real briefly. It has remained somewhat slow over the past couple years, but it's leveled off. So in 2024, we didn't see it slow down even further. But we're hearing from developers anecdotally that we may see things pick up here in the near future. So we're remaining optimistic that that's gonna happen. Unless you have any questions, that's all I've got.
Comments, questions? Who's the liaison? Okay.
So the fees do not cover their expenses, so they don't charge enough their planning fees to cover between that and government.
You couldn't charge enough to cover the cost to run that department.
So part of the problem is some of the planning they do is initiated by an applicant. Some of the planning they do is just statewide requirements, so trying to figure that balance. Most of everything they do is administering the state planning goals. So, it's kind of hard to put that all on the back of developers or applicants that are trying to do, stuff with their land that oftentimes we think they shouldn't even have to ask the government to be able to do, right? I mean, it's one of those weird things where the restrictions the state has put on people and their ability to use their land in the way they want is out of control. So our attempt to help buffer that is that difference between what people pay and what the actual cost to provide the planning services are.
Also in their budget is a significant amount of work that's done on, general county and statewide code enforcement. that's in there. It's, you know, it's a dead loss for the department, for sure. There's people that go out, you know, cleanups and that kind of stuff that we're doing constantly.
Really not making any money off that work.
Takes a lot of time too.
Okay. I'd make a motion, we tentatively approve the planning department budget.
I'll second that.
It's been tentatively moved to approve the planning department budget, moved and seconded. Any further questions, comments? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Thanks, Josh.
Thank you. Stuff's here.
Tab number 20.
I know, but what it seems like is that's what I was getting at, is how come we don't have more money coming in from the state to help people?
Welcome.
I'm Jean Crawford with the County Surveyor's Office. Technically, I'm retired.
Yeah, I was surprised to see you here.
Yeah, well, been getting Kayla will be coming in on this next year, or else hopefully, right now, we do not have a deputy county surveyor. We're trying to hire one. We may have one that looks good. So between them next year, they will handle it. Basically, our budget has stayed the same. There is one difference on the temporary employees. It went up because I'm here 2 days a week till the end of the calendar year. Ron wanted me to stick around to help the transition on things. Other than that, basically, everything's the same.
So we do have a surveyor, or you're trying
Well,
to get one?
we have a county surveyor. It's a deputy county surveyor that we're trying to hire. We had one, but she decided to retire at the end of January. So it was kind of, all of a sudden it was like 2 weeks, and she was basically retired before and wanted to move with family.
What's the load on your department? Are you able to keep up?
Yes, we are. It's this, this number of surveys coming in, hopefully are gonna come up, but yeah, between Kayla and Diana in the front office, they are 0.8s. We are only open 4 days a week. They'll be able to keep most of it. Right now, I'm going through old records to catch up things that have fallen through the cracks over the years. Ron's been keeping up, of course, with checking in with the surveys coming in, because he has to look at them last. The 2 guys that are in the field crew, to be honest, we could never have too many people in the field crew. Years ago, we used to have a 6-man field crew. Now we have a 2, because the government corners out there is when things are mandated to maintain the section corners, quarter corners, etc. And the guys just spent 4 years doing over out where the Archie Creek fire was, going out and trying to hit all those, as many corners as they can, because they're very valuable to the landowners for logging and all that sort of stuff. We did get grants from FEMA on that, and I think we've gotten everything we could get out of those, which was helped tremendously. That goes into our corner preservation fund, because that's where our guys are paid for on that.
You were talking about the deputy surveyor that we had retiring, and I didn't really understand the problem. I think the surveyors retired 2 or 3 times.
Yes, in 2021.
2 of you.
Well, in 2021, Ron retired from private practice at the age of 80. He then got appointed in about 6 weeks later, because Krista DeGroot had passed away, and he's still there going strong. Next month he'll be 84, but he's going strong. And he likes what he's doing, so. We just do need a deputy though, that, one of these days Ron's really gonna wanna retire.
Yeah. Move to tentatively approve the surveyor budget.
Okay,
I'll second that.
Been moved and seconded to tentatively approve the surveyor budget. Any questions, comments?
Just this, I would say, be sure and tell Ron how grateful we are for him, and also for you. You're one of those people who, you're the glue that holds the office together. You've been there for a very long time doing that. You're quiet about it. You just come and do your thing and it makes it all work, and there's probably no recognition for what you do, but you have been an important part of that office for a really long time.
They gave me a really nice outline of the county with the brass cap on it, and yeah, no, for the last 48 years, I think I've spent less than 8 of them, or 11 of them, 12 of them not in the office, so. I just like what I'm doing, I like the office.
Yeah.
Who'd have thought, but.
Is that leading to a motion that she can't retire?
Ron already tried that one on me, and he was.
We've already had the party.
He wasn't gonna sign unless the joke was unless I did come back a couple of days a week, so now I'm here like Tuesdays and Wednesdays and.
I wouldn't oppose her not being able to.
We had cake and everything.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, let's vote on that. I mean, the approval of the budget. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you for your service. Thank you, Kayla.
Yes, same thing, they gotta do everything, we don't get no kickbacks from the state, they don't pay for it. They make mandates and make you do stuff, but they don't give you the funds to do it with. That's what's frustrating. Yeah, I think somebody
Now,
needs
are
to.
we asking any departments to return for further explanations of their budgets?
Do you have any questions that weren't answered, Dan?
I've got everything I need.
Okay. So now is the time for public comment. If anybody would like to ask questions of our committee or have some statements they wanna make, the podium is here, and just identify yourself and for the record and ask any questions.
How you doing?
Good.
My name is Andrew Rosales, and I have some questions.
What's your last
Rosales, R-O-S-A-L-E-S.
Okay.
And I have some questions about, I guess, accounting practices. If we can pull up page 5, 6, 7, 8 of the first tab, which is the Douglas County Combined Summary of Budget, Resources and Requirements.
Let's see, what's your question?
Well, my question is that if we look at the 24-25 budget and we scroll all the way down to the ending fund balance, we see that the ending fund balance is 68 million. That is what we're showing will be in all accounts at the end of this year, 68 million. I think that should be further reduced, because if you look at the top section where you're talking about revenues, the Title II and Title III funds were removed from the revenue, which means that there's even less than 68 at the end of this year. If we then move over one column over to 25-26, you'll see the starting budget is 94 million. So there's a $36 million disparity between what's gonna be in the account at the end of the year and what we're assuming is gonna be at the account at the beginning of the year. What should really be in the account at the beginning of the year is not 94 million, it's 56.5 million. Now, if you take that 56.5 and subtract the 40 million hole that's in the budget for 25-26, that leaves 16 million in the account. 16 million for 26-27. When our budget whole is 40, that means that halfway through 26-27, we're gonna be out of money. Now, we can further reduce even the 25-26 numbers because we already know that we're not getting Title I or Title II receipts, right? So the assumption of revenue for that 800,000 and the 1.3 million aren't gonna be there either. So now you can further reduce that 16 million down to roughly 14 million. That's what's gonna be in the account at the end of the 25-26 year. And then going into 26-27, what is the plan? I don't think you can approve this budget this year the way it is. I think major reductions need to be looked at. There needs to be some sort of mitigation plan to preserve what we have and then make sure that we can fund, 5 years out. Because right now, it looks like 2.5 years and we're out of funding. I also want to make just a comment for the record. During the compensation board hearing, they did talk about giving a 3% raise across the board, but there was no actual discussion about what that looks like in real numbers. Again, please refer to the same slide that I referenced earlier. You can see the difference in personnel services goes from 72 million up to 75 million for an increase of $2.5 million. That's what that raise cost the county, $2.5 million at a time where we're running $40 million deficits. We're giving ourselves a raise. I don't think this budget should be approved. I think every department should go back and look for ways to cut, so that way we can, be solvent in the future. And that's all I have. Am I correct about the, and if I am incorrect, please correct me. Is the ending fund balance what is expected to be in the account at the end of the
I'll
year?
make some comments. It's our turn.
Absolutely.
That's all.
We gotta wait till it's our turn, I'm sorry.
Okay, that's all I have. Should I sit down or do I say this?
But if you're done.
Thank you.
I did send each one of the commissioners an email laying out in exact detail.
Okay. Thank you.
So are we on to the next part? Go ahead. Go to the next. Are we done with public comment?
Yes, any others? Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so thank you for the comments and thank the budget committee for the work that we've done the last couple days. And again, you and your team put together an incredible amount of information. There is quite a few unknowns or variables in all the budgeting we do here. So first, to say there'll be no more Title II or Title III indicates there'll be no more skill rule schools. And that is certainly not a decision we're making here. I will tell you, there is 40 states and over 700 counties that rely on secure rule schools for a portion of their budgets, and that work is ongoing. Our entire federal delegation, from our senators to every one of our representatives at the federal level, all support the reauthorization. That continues to be worked on by the National Association of Counties, by the Schools Coalition Group, and a lot of different organizations around. So, stating that that's not gonna happen is a little definitive when we certainly don't believe that and have budgeted accordingly that is not the case. So, the secure rule schools did expire, and we did get payment last year, so we're literally just a month past what we would have got a normal payment this year. So we're not that far off, and it's not ready to decimate county services based upon, what may or may not happen. We do have reserve funding and we are planning to spend some. The challenge is once you decimate county government, rebuilding it is virtually impossible. The idea of going out and trying to find new law enforcement officers or new attorneys in the juvenile or in the DA's office or new juvenile department folks, new finance, new legal counsel is really, really troubling, especially if we did that work and then the next day they reauthorize the funding and then you try to build it all back. So we have in the decade plus that Chris and I have been here, the time that Chris has been with us in this budget committee, have been really thinking more like a glide slope, and we've done some of that work. We have eliminated positions, we have looked for those efficiencies. We really are down to the core functions of government, and there could be a time in the not too distant future where there could be some draconian cuts. But besides the secure rule school, something more exciting that we've heard just recently for the first time that anybody can find in history is we have a president talking about timber production.
Yes.
And I want to go through some numbers. So in fiscal year 90-91, Douglas County received a total of timber receipt funding of $50 million, $182,067. That's in 1990 dollars.
Yes.
Right? So think about the buying power that was. Those were timber receipts. Those were being productive. And the interesting thing about that is on the General County in our book, the ONC receipts, that's the same amount, that $25 million in the book, it's the same amount the Treasury got also.
Right.
So we split that. On the Forest Service side, the $24 million, that's only 25%, so the federal Treasury got close to $75 million. This was being managed as an asset and it made money for the US taxpayers and it made money to provide services here. And the most important thing is we had healthy forests then. They weren't all burned up. We had clean air in the summertime. We had clean water where our municipal systems aren't having to upgrade their systems to deal with runoff. And we could enjoy the recreation in our forest. So fast forward, I'm gonna pick 2007, 2008. So these are some of the years of Secure Rural Schools. So a Secure Rural Schools program brought to us by Senator Ron Wyden and others was designed to be a replacement for timber receipts. So it's basically a payment in lieu of production instead of a payment from production. But those original funding amounts for Secure Rural Schools was based on the highest 3 years of timber receipts. So the county was fine. It didn't ever take into account inflation. So over time, inflation has caused us not to have near the buying power. But also over time, more counties have come onto the Secure Rural School program. So the pie itself didn't get bigger, it actually got smaller, but the slices all got thinner. So our last Secure Rural School payment that we received last year, total was just over $7 million in today's money. With a very conservative inflation amount, that's about 20% of what timber receipts, a little less than 20% of what timber receipts used to be. So the challenge we have as a budget committee and as commissioners, if Congress does pass Secure Rural Schools, they do a big announcement, how great it is, we've just taken care of the schools and the counties. And the fact is, it's less than 20% of what timber receipts once were. The other challenge we have is we received actual timber receipts this year from the ONC, from the BLM, and it was much closer to what Secure Rural Schools would have been if we received it. So there's about $1 million delta is all, $1 million short. But they do a big press release talking about how they sent almost $28 million to the counties. That's 18 counties, and we get about a quarter of that. What they don't go on to say is that is the lowest amount of timber harvest they've had under the current resource management plan, and one of the lowest years ever in the history of the program since 1937. What they don't say is that they would have harvested 63% of the annual growth or sustained yield. The counties, the 18 counties, received about $135 million, and so would have the Treasury. What they don't tell you is that the Treasury, Congress appropriated out of the Treasury $127 million to manage that land, to produce that $28 million back to the Treasury on the world's most productive timberland with a dominant use of managing and harvesting timber. So yeah, there is a lot of unknowns and factors that we can't completely see yet. We are aware of the challenges, but the idea of, we're not gonna get the help from the federal government. Really since the 90s, we received some sort of either AL payment, safety net, and or Secure Rural Schools. Again, I think one of the most promising and exciting things happening right now is the executive orders around timber production. When people see the current president say we don't need timber from other countries, we have our own timber here. I want to remind everybody, we are the timber capital of the world right here in Douglas County. We've got more timber on the ground today than any time in recorded history on public lands. We've grown a huge amount of timber beyond what the landscape is capable of sustaining health in a healthy way. We need to harvest this timber for a variety of reasons. One of which, maybe the most important reason, is to regain the health of our forest, and the people that live here don't have to deal with the smoke, the constant smoke every summer, and the negative health conflicts that creates. And finally, I'll leave you with an interesting, troubling number. Last summer, in just over 3 months, the Umpqua National Forest, the U.S. Forest Service, spent more than our annual budget fighting fire on the Umpqua National Forest. upwards approximately $250 million, which is greater than our total fund budget to run all county services here at the county. And they did that in, like I say, about 3 months. And if that's the new normal, instead of producing revenue and making that forest productive, as the promise was when national forests were put together, there was a promise of productivity. We are going down the wrong path quickly. So I do believe the new administration's aware of that, and there is plans to correct that error. So those are my comments. I do appreciate the Budget Committee indulging me in a little bit of a rant, but lots of moving parts, and we'll continue to do the very best we can to connect the dots.
Great. And I would, go ahead, Chris.
Andrew, I appreciate your comments. We have a meeting scheduled coming up soon. I'm looking forward to that. Some of the comments that I'll make directly to you today, I would have saved for that meeting had not been for your questions, but I don't know you. We've never personally met. I don't know how long you've lived in Douglas County. Don't know anything about your history. Started getting some emails from you the other day that had some pretty pointed questions in it about our budget and our budget process. And I'm gonna share with you a little bit of a history. So I'm essentially a lifelong Oregonian. I've lived in Douglas County since 1994. I've been a commissioner now for 10 years. This is my 11th budget process. When I became a commissioner, that glide slope that you mentioned today, we were on the exact same trend. 2.5 years and the county was gonna be insolvent. Commissioner Freeman and I started here on January 5th of 2015, knowing that we were taking over the helm of a sinking ship. And in the 10 years that we've been doing this work, we have had years where we've actually put money back into reserves and built the reserves back up. The first line of duty for us was to stop the bleeding. We had to take a look at what counties are statutorily required to provide as far as services goes. And one of those services that the county had spent about $4 million a year on at the time that wasn't a statutorily provided service was library services. And you emailed me as the local chair of the Democrat Party. When we started doing this critical work to stop the bleeding at county level and find alternative ways to provide the services that the county had been providing, and made the decision to offload the library service and do that a different way, it was your party that screamed the loudest. So I'm happy to say that all the libraries in Douglas County are still open. The service is still available. But we're no longer spending $4 million out of reserves in order to do that work. I will also tell you that had we taken your approach 10 years ago, we would have had to cut 25% of the work that the county does for the public while we still had money in the bank to do the work. And multiple times throughout this last 10 years, SRS has been reauthorized, and we would have cried wolf when there was no wolf. So trying to balance providing services to the public and making that drop dead date cut that you're talking about that this budget shows is coming has been a very difficult balance beam to walk. And the most difficult part of our jobs is that we are not in control of our own destiny. For 30 years, people have been crying about commissioners failing at finding an alternative way to fund their county governments when we have state and federal law that box us into a set of parameters that we can't control. We can't legally raise property taxes. Much to people's misunderstanding, diversifying the economy and creating jobs doesn't put dollars into this budget. We don't get paid from jobs. You're scratching your head like you don't believe me, but I'm telling you, after doing this work for 11 years, the county doesn't get paid from jobs. We don't get paid from industry. We don't get paid from creating new jobs. We get paid in a different way. So I'm happy to talk about it however much you want, but I'll tell you, I know a lot about what I'm talking about. The other thing is, you mentioned in your first email that you sent me, how much money does the county spend advocating for the timber industry?
Correction, how much do they spend on maintaining the roads to access timber lands?
I can show you the email. You wanted to know how much money we spent advocating for the timber industry.
Then I misstated.
Yeah. So now that you've been here for a couple days and seen the budget, I hope that you can answer that question for yourself. The answer to the question is zero. And the truth is, the evil timber industry, as your party likes to suggest that it is a lot of the time, and us, we don't always see eye to eye on the same, on issues, but what we advocate for is very specifically a responsible management of federal timberland. That's what we advocate for. And I'm gonna make you an offer today, and it's a sincere offer. I will take you for an airplane ride in my own airplane and show you what I'm talking about. We're spending millions and millions of dollars every single year fighting fires. We are not replanting the forest after it burns. We're not harvesting merchantable timber after it burns. And all of those things are leading to this problem that we have. And the environment is not better off for it. So that's what we're advocating for. We're advocating for responsible management of federal land, an improvement in the environment over its current situation, which results in a financial benefit to all the people in the United States of America, including those who live here.
Even the SIP agreement helps us.
That's what we advocate for. It isn't for anybody else. And if you know, a lot of folks wanna point to our list of campaign donors, I will tell you that the list of campaign donors donate to our campaigns because they like what we're doing as commissioners, and you heard a lot of that during the last 2 days. It isn't because we do special favors.
Sure.
So,
Can I respond, because I think you're misrepresenting my.
no,
You can have meetings with them.
we can talk about it in my
Okay,
office.
I'm not against the timber industry, I just wanted to.
We
We
can,
haven't made 20 million on TULIP since 2011.
and the other thing that I'll finish with is we put together a very conservative budget. And there hasn't been a single year where at the end of the year, the ending fund balance is not greater than we anticipated. Every single year, because we put together conservative budgets, we end up with more money in the bank than we project on this piece of paper.
And because we work with our department heads every day to do it.
And you know, throughout government, there is this, and Douglas County is really no different. There is this weird sort of a philosophy in government that says, if we don't spend it this year, we won't get it next year. So the department heads, towards the end of the fiscal year, look for ways to spend down their budgeted dollars to make sure that they can show a need for those dollars next year. And every single year since I've been a commissioner, there's been an email sent out to every department head by HR at my direction saying, don't do that. We have a limited amount of dollars in the bank, and what you save this year goes to help pay for your budget next year. And we, as a county, have taken that approach at least since we've been here. We continue to beat that drum today. We constantly challenge our department heads to come in under budget every single year, and I'm not aware of any that haven't. If there is one, I don't know of it off the top of my head. But what I promise you, you will see, and if you don't, I will be very surprised, is that this time next year, if you're still around, you'll have a different opinion of this than you have today.
So the numbers aren't correct for 24-25. They're not updated, I should say, not incorrect, they're just not updated.
Well, we're not to the end of
So
the
right now,
fiscal year
yeah,
yet.
so that again, that's just process, and you can talk about in your office, but we do a revised budget at the end of the year, before the end of the fiscal year. So you're not seeing that yet, cause we haven't got there yet. So we will get there.
We're not at the end of the fiscal year.
When we get to the end of our fiscal year, we'll do a revised budget, and that's when it lines up. We're not adopting a budget today, this is a budget committee. So we adopt a budget after we do our revised budget, so it's process. Yes, there will be another meeting and the numbers will be updated prior to the final adoption.
Anyone else?
That's why everything we say, we tentatively approve. It's all tentative, everything is tentative, they have to have something to be able to have something to work with, and they go from that, it's a starting point.
In my experience, what is in the account at the end of the day is what you start the day with the next day, usually, in my account.
So again, we don't need to debate this, but every year we're audited and we have, how many years now in a row?
30-something.
Achieve the highest level of financial achievement with our finance department. So I appreciate you're looking and trying to learn about this, but questions are better than accusations, and definitive things are not the norm here. Lots of stuff changes all the time. And again, the funding is the most difficult thing for us, is to try to figure out what the federal government and state government are gonna do, because it constantly changes. So, and we, we're in the position to try to, make it all work here, and sort of knock on wood, we've been doing that.
And wouldn't it be true, when you say, something is decimated and in order to bring it back, I would say that, you talk about timber production being brought back. Look what the decimation has been with the Forest Service and BLM. Will it take a while to rebuild that so we can increase timber production?
So we can have that conversation, that there's actually some really new models out there where they use some of the expertise of other agencies and or even some private expertise to lay out timber sales and things. So there's around the nation have been some different models where that productivity can change pretty quickly. The good news is, specifically here for Douglas County and Western Oregon, is there's a ton of milling capacity still on the ground. So other states, Wyoming and other states, have all but eliminated any milling capacity. So rebuilding that milling capacity takes a lot longer. The industry right now, industry trade groups claim there's up to 1 billion board feet of current milling capacity available in Western Oregon that can be turned back on relatively quickly. So tremendous demand for lumber. Lumber is some of the most sustainable and environmentally again, it's environmentally sustainable, but the right type of material to be building homes. There's a tremendous housing need, not just here in Douglas County or the state of Oregon, but nationally. There's a desire to have more domestic production, which I would tell you from all aspects of, from forest health to the economy to really national defense and environmental reasons, domestic timber production is better. There's just less distance to carry the wood. Our forest practices are the best anywhere in the world as far as replanting and sustainable yield. There's a lot of reasons why the current president's executive order on timber production is good beyond funding county government. Funding county government is a very important thing to us, but outside this, this county in this room, it gets less important as you move up, up the ladder to different levels of government.
Thank you.
If I may, I just would like to leave it at one little thing that you touched on. Why we have money in reserves and why we think there's hope for the future of, turning this around. I would certainly advocate for cost of living raise for these folks. I would want them to not keep up with inflation. I would not want to put them backwards. And you suggested that. And
what I suggest is that we talk about the numbers during the meeting.
But again, I advocate for, because we've got really good staff, we got really good people. And some of the reason why we're successful actually in not having a much worse situation is because we got such good people. So we have to keep them and we have to take care of them. And so why we have that money in there, I'm certainly gonna advocate for that.
And much of that is directed by labor unions.
Well, some of it is, but some of it is just, it's flat. Cost of living has gone up and the amount you're paying them goes down relatively if you don't keep up with that.
Well, the insurance cost to county employees, their portion goes up. There's a lot of other factors that happen that 3%'s trying to fill.
Yeah.
So I would entertain a motion to, I believe, tentatively approve the budget. Is that what we,
I move to approve the 25-26 fiscal year budget.
tentatively? Yeah.
Approve the 25-26 fiscal year budget as presented, and the property taxes it contains at a rate of 1.1124 per $1,000 of assessed value.
I would like to second that.
Okay,
Can I make a comment?
yes.
So as part of that motion, there was a permanent tax rate approved. That permanent tax rate has been the same since the passing of the ballot measures 5 and 50. So the people often see the amount of taxes they pay go up, but the permanent tax rate, or the county commissioners, county budget committee raising their taxes, is not what happens. Our rate, like Commissioner Boyce said earlier, for the last decade and for some decades before that has not changed. We are the 4th lowest in the state of Oregon. The reason our tax rate is low is because of the numbers I read earlier about timber receipts. There was no need for county government, for Douglas County government, and several of the county governments that had relied on timber receipts to charge the citizens that lived here more taxes. There was plenty of revenue to provide excellent services. There was a time when Douglas County had upwards of 1,200 employees working here, providing services in a variety of ways. This budget has just over 500. So the revenue that timber receipts and productivity produced had a level of services that people were pretty lucky to have and become very accustomed to. And I've heard Commissioner Crest say this quite a few times. People have become used to and expect a level of services greater than their desire or ability to pay for. So that this $1.11 a thousand thing, I think our average cost of counties in Oregon to provide county level of services is approaching $4 a thousand, right? So every new home built, every new business built, the requirement for services to those people exceeds the amount of property tax they will pay to the county.
Thank you for your comment. Any other comments? Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Thanks everyone for participating in these annual budget hearings.
This is
And
a
with-
tough job, you guys.
And with that,
Good job, Tom.
we're adjourned.